In the United States, we'll
There you
talk about
go.
the horrors of the Holocaust and the actions of Nazi Germany, but no one wants to talk about slavery or Jim Crow laws or mass incarceration. Why is that, she asked. Wilkerson lifts up Nazi Germany, not only in comparison, but also reinforcing how we were the primary example Nazis used to create their own system. That's horrifying. Not only do we need to explore these comparisons between Nazi Germany and us, we need to wonder why we continue to deny our history and current reality. I wonder how we hold ourselves accountable the way we do Germany. Wilkerson holds this mirror up to my face and challenges me to see truth in who I am and what I am doing to Black and brown people. It's more comfortable to view things from a distance. It's more comfortable to cast it away as something that has nothing to do with me or that doesn't affect me. But Wilkerson writes on page 219, caste is more than rank. It is a state of mind that holds everyone captive. The dominant imprisoned in an illusion of their own entitlement, the subordinate trapped in the purgatory of someone else's definition of who they are and who they should be. See, those tentacles wrap themselves around all of our lives. This is what Wilkerson highlights as she illustrates some of the consequences of caste. In chapter 23, Wilkerson explains how caste confrontations occur most often in public spaces. This is where the groups that have historically been kept apart suddenly find themselves navigating the written and unwritten rules of engagement. Here's an example. One of my white friends drives this bright yellow Volkswagen Beetle. One day she pulls up to a fuel pump to buy gas, and as she's pumping her gas, a Black man pulls up behind her at another pump. The man gets out of the car and jokingly says to her, "Punch buggy." She knows this game. You know, the game when someone sees a Volkswagen Beetle, they yell "punch buggy," yellow for the color, first so that they can punch the other person. She plays it with her grandkids. So she responds back, "Oh no, don't hit me," like she would say to her grandkids. Only the man didn't know about this joke. She plays with her grandkids. He takes her seriously, as if she's feeling threatened. Suddenly, the Black man apologizes, insisting that he in no way was going to actually hit her. She tries to explain, but by that time the man has already gotten into his car. He drives away without even getting gas. She gets into her car, just trembling. She feels awful that a friendly interaction at a gas pump had turned so harmful. For me and my white friends, this happens infrequently, and maybe not at all, depending on whether you live in a neighborhood that's inclusive. For people of color, this is the way of life. Every day, trying to navigate relationships with white people. As a white woman in the dominant caste, I am working to understand my white identity and those aspects of my white culture that interfere with fostering relationships with people of color. When Wilkerson explains the Stockholm Syndrome in chapter 22, I actually remembered a significant learning from one of my anti-racist workshops. We were on day 2 and concluding a very difficult morning of conversations. Several white people spoke together about organizing a prayer time over lunch. They made an announcement inviting everyone to come pray together. A person of color spoke up, asking if the purpose of the prayer meeting was to make them, the white people, feel better. Her response stunned the white organizers. It seemed very normal. It's prayer, right? To seek comfort, perpetuate a sense of peace, even if it really isn't present, and voice unity, especially organized around white leaders. They said, "We're just praying." But in light of what we were learning, I saw through it for the false narrative that it was. As a person of color, she stood against a system of taking care of white people's feelings. I am grateful for this lesson because it has challenged me. Like I've held this moment for a long time. It challenges me to do my own work. I applaud the courage it takes to engage in conversations around this book, Caste. Friends, Let's boldly gaze into the mirrors that Wilkerson has given us. Let's get close. I encourage you to remain in the dissonance, to listen to the cries of a people more than 400 years old, as the psalmist pleads, "How long, O Lord?" This is the force at work in our hearts that will transform us and stretch and reach into our families, churches, and communities. Be blessed and be a blessing.
As we consider the words that Tammy shared with us this morning, I'd like to share with you some of my reflections on this session. There are some words that just penetrate the soul. There are images that you cannot unsee. And at the same time, there are images that you cannot unsee that somehow our minds have learned to just disregard. And it's true. So when she confronts us and with the images and the stories of things that are like day-to-day things for her, the incident in the airplane, all the rage I felt because it happens more often than not. But at the same time, she was basically paralyzed from taking any action because everybody else was pushing to keep her in her place. Intimidation and fear, yeah, they're there. And I was reminded of a conversation we were having in another space about aggression towards Asian Americans after the former president decided to call it the Chinese flu. My niece is married to a Canadian Chinese wonderful guy named Jonathan Long. And my niece, of course, is Puerto Rican. And they live in Michigan, just northwest of Detroit. And I was reminded that we were having a conversation with Denny. He said that every time either Jonathan or my niece is talking to either a parent or relative in Spanish in a public place, they get the look. You know what look we're talking about? The look that says, "I don't understand. Why are you talking about me? What are you plotting against us?" So I told him that we have a code word. We have a code. So when I call them or my sister calls or I call my sister, I says, "Are you in a public space or mixed company?" And they will say yes. And when they say that, they say we have to switch to English to protect you. It shouldn't be that way, my brothers and sisters. And it's too the images that she presents in this section are powerful, are troublesome, are disturbing. And you know what? That's okay. Because we need to be disturbed. Because otherwise we become complacent. And as a person of color, I fess up that sometimes I go for it too. Sometimes because I think that's a way to protect others. And sometimes and more often because I'm trying to protect myself or my children when they were younger. So people, as we discuss today and as we go into a time of reflection after Victor shares with us, please don't unsee what you have seen. Don't close your eyes, don't close your heart, and certainly don't close your spirit. Because in many ways, this is God speaking to us for such a time as this. Victor?
Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. I give thanks to my sisters in Christ, Alicia and Tammy, who kind of set the atmosphere for us in terms of our conversation. And I think for both Alicia and Tammy, and Reverend Alicia, they both have asked us to be in this moment, to be present, and to essentially reflect on all of the things we have been reading about. This morning, as I reflect on Caste, I'm thinking of some quotes from her book, from Isabel Wilkins' book. She says, Caste behavior is essentially a response to one's assigned place in the hierarchy, according to the script that the culture hands us all. The dominant caste, whether man or woman, rich over poor, white over black, Brahmin over Dalit, is not to take instructions or even suggestions from the lower class. The script decrees that the dominant caste must be right, more informed, more competent, first in all things. And I started thinking about that. And there was another quote, just very quickly. It says, caste is more than rank. It is a state of mind that holds everyone captive, the dominant imprisoned in an illusion of their own entitlement, the subordinate trapped in the purgatory of someone else's definition of who they are and who they should be. And as I thought about those two particular quotes from the book, I thought about this is a season of Lent, right? This is a time where we all are reflecting and preparing for the coming of Christ. And as I turn to the Gospels, these two particular quotes remind me of the encounter Jesus had with a man who was possessed, the man who was isolated, the man who was in chains, the man who everyone knew was in town, the man who even had a guard. There was a guard there presiding over him just in case something went wrong. And then there comes Jesus, who deals with this man, who asks him his name, tells him that he's Legion. The demon possessed man tells him that he's Legion. And the truth of the matter is, so I could get to my point, is that at some point, the people find out what happened to the man. They find out that his encounter with Jesus helps him get in his right mind. And what is the reaction of the people? They were afraid. Those who had seen what had happened and how he was cured, but the people of the region in which the town Jesus was asked, they did not invite him over to dinner. They did not say, hey, thank you for healing this man. They did not say, hey, why don't you stay a little longer? They politely, or maybe not so politely, I'm not sure because the text doesn't say, but they asked Jesus to leave because they were overcome, watch this, with fear. This, my friends, I believe, during this Lent season, as I reflect and give my own reflection on this, is the challenge we face when it comes to caste, how we overcome our own fears, how do we overcome people's change of status in our society. And the man had a huge task because the man who was healed wanted to go with Jesus. Jesus said, no, you stay. And you stay in this town, and you go and you return home. And Jesus tells him, tell how much God has done for you. And so the man did just that. And so as we ponder this particular text, and as we ponder on Isabel Wilkerson, my hope, my prayer is that we don't put all of the efforts of changing people's perceptions or mindsets just on the man, but now that we as the crowd we as the people who asked Jesus to leave, maybe we need to reevaluate, all of us, what caste has done. And maybe we need to say to one another, why is caste has us, why does caste have us in this position? And my hope and prayer, as we come closer to the end of this book, that we will continue the work of our investigation, our inquisitiveness, our hopefully our ministry of reconciliation will take us to places where we can now essentially deal with caste and free ourselves from it. But anyway, that is my reflection for this morning. Thank you. And so now this is a good time, because we are going to break up into groups, and we are going to have about 30 minutes. And there, I believe, Reverend Babcock, if there are questions that we are going to go into the group with. One is, what are the consequences of caste according to Wilkerson's and your own experience? And two, how does the caste system take away people, or how does the caste system take people who would otherwise be allies and turn them against each other? Yeah, those are the questions we have. Forgive me, I haven't drank all my coffee this morning yet. So those are the two questions that we are going. Mandy,
yeah, go ahead, Mandy, share it.
Yes, thank you.
We were discussing the people of different castes and how sometimes that divides us. And I was thinking about the block I lived on in Juniata Park in Philly that I called the Little United Nations, with the Black family on one side. On the other side, it was Puerto Rican Palestinian. I don't know how they met, but it was very interesting. And I am the young white woman in the middle. And I felt like I was the one that always had to discuss issues between the neighbors, people that I thought should be able to get along, but because of the differences in skin tone and their experiences, there was quite a bit of tension. And so that just says that sometimes the caste just puts divisions that are not in any way, shape, or form helpful.
Yeah. Thank you, Mandy, for sharing.
Okay, and Alicia, it's your meeting.
Okay, so we had some interesting conversations in our room, and I'm pretty sure in other rooms. So we're gonna ask you to think about one word or two that, and you can put them in the chat, about the consequences of caste that were named in your discussions. What were some of the words, some of the images, some of the stuff that came in the chats, and would you please share it with us? We have opportunity hoarding, interrupted, reflection. Wow. Oh. So John Coleman is thanking David Nuttall, which is good. Taking ownership. We are all carefully taught, yes. Discomfort is a motivator, change and learning, yes.
Yeah, yes.
Economic repression, physical health, yes. Health disparities. Silence means not being an ally, creating divisions, biological cost of caste, unrecognized bias among healthcare providers, more in common if we can see past caste, creating hierarchies is human sinfulness, the amount of crime, murders in Philadelphia is heartbreaking, shameful, blah, blah. What? As we allow this to occur is sinful on our part. Discussion must continue, indeed. Unconscious biases, yes. Emphasis on personal relationships, wow. with Jesus rather than having an obligation to rectify societal disparities, pitting those against with limited resources against one another. Need for respect was emphasized in our group. Okay, so as we think of some of those words and ideas that were shared in our groups, can someone, do we have reporters from each group or someone that wants to share what happened in some of the groups? Are there any questions that we should be wrestling with as the group? Inflated self-images, yes. Conversation of diverse racial experiences and observations, yes.
I have something
Cindy?
maybe I could share from my group. This is Cindy Skripek.
Sure.
We got into the conversation about how it seems in every group there is a tendency to create hierarchies. So we talked about an elementary school playground. We talked about an all-white high school, that even without race being a factor, that we tend to create hierarchies of people who are better, who are seen as better, and people who are lower. So kind of learning how to see caste as more than just hierarchy, I think, is something we're wrestling with. You know, that even when you have those hierarchies, and actually one of our folks mentioned within the Black community that there are hierarchies depending on your education level and different things, that, but sort of merging that with the idea that even with all of those hierarchies, if you're a white person, no matter where you are in that hierarchy, there's still going to be Blacks who are lower in that lower, like caste creates this system where there's always somebody lower.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm just
Cindy,
learning how to talk about this. So
right. As soon as you started talking, Cindy, I started thinking about The Breakfast Club. And if nobody can see Caste in that movie, then I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's a movie about hierarchy if you ever seen one. And then they all in one room trying to figure things out. But anyway.
Right. But this goes beyond that tendency. I'm right about that? I mean, that's what I'm getting out of this, that caste is more than just our tendency to stack people up against ourselves because of the issue of race.
Right. And I think what you hit upon, Cindy, like if there are no Black people in this school, and if you ever watched The Breakfast Club, you got the jocks against the nerds against so we set up this hierarchy, even when race may not necessarily be a factor in that particular school, caste is still there and present. And it still affects how that group sees other people. But if there's no other people, they'll figure out a way to, kind of to be divisive among themselves, so to speak, and kind of set up structures and power so folks see each other, like here's the young jock, here's the nerd, here's the, whatever. And then, she's a beauty queen, she's not. And, and so.
Pecking order,
right.
I can share.
Go ahead.
I can share one thing from our group. One member of our group shared how uncomfortable a lot of the incidents in the book were for them to read and so on. And then said something about, I need to exercise my uncomfortable muscle more. And I thought that was just a great image that we all should latch on to. We all have an uncomfortable muscle. We need to stretch it. We need to stress it. We need to give it rest. But it's an important part of our learning and growing.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts and ideas? We have 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I want you to think about what is one thing, as we usually end, what is the one thing you can commit to do with this learning of today?
I have a point I like to make because I know it's somebody volunteered this, and I know he's not the only one. who is in that that thought, he felt very comfortable with learning more about other cultures through entertainment.
Mhm.
And if he saw a entertaining television show or entertaining movie, he felt comfortable learning about that culture, and or particularly movie on enslavement, which there's several movies, and some of them are quite good as entertainment. You hear me? Entertainment. That if you wish to learn more and get more of the truth on any subject, and you like a quick fix, look at documentaries. You because entertainment, they have to go through advertisement, they have to go through the legal, they have to go through all these different steps to make sure that you feel comfortable watching it. So that's the only point I like to make. Is better than nothing. But if you really want to expand your knowledge about other cultures and look at yourself, your own culture, you don't want us to only look at The Godfather, or only look at this, you know, you have to look at other kinds of resources. Heaven forbid to pick up a book, but even that, there are many, many books out there, but you do have to widen your knowledge, and please look more than just entertainment. That's my point. Or talk to somebody. How about that? Okay.
Yeah,
Alicia,
Pastor,
can I
Go
just
ahead.
share how grateful I am that we're able to come together like this and have this conversation?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our small group really had a variety of opinions, and that's okay. That's where we are. We're all in this work together of trying to be who God intends for all of us to be. And so thank you to you guys for creating this space for us to learn, to read, whether we agree or not, but then to come together and talk about it in this way is so important. And we need to keep this conversation going. We must. Thank you.
One of the things that we need to all bear in mind is that, you know, when it comes to caste, this is a life or death thing.
Yeah.
When it affects the health, the resources, the access, who has the keys, who has control, it is life
Yeah.
and death. So we need to put it in that perspective, and all of a sudden it gets really serious.
Yeah.
Not just there, but here too. So with that said, continue thinking about that action. If you think about it, you know, you want to do something, and why don't you put on the Facebook page of the conference, you know, say, you know, how is this speaking to you, so that people see that indeed this book is changing us, it's challenging us, it's exercising that uncomfortable muscle in all of us, that we may all build each other up together as the body of Christ and not tear each other down.
Yes. Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.